Hey, welcome back everyone. So today's lesson is there's no such thing as a cheap or expensive stock. Now, when you watch the talking heads, they love to talk about stocks as if they were shopping in a supermarket. That's what it sounds like to me. They'll say things like, hey, Microsoft is a great buy right now. It's at a bargain. It's a bargain price. It's cheap. Or they'll talk in the other way about a stock, like let's say Boeing, and they'll say, oh, Boeing is expensive right now. It's overbought. It's too much. It's got to come down. So they're almost talking about stocks as if stocks were products in a supermarket on a shelf. And first of all, that's just not true. And that's not how price can be evaluated correctly in the stock market. So I wrote here, stock market, not supermarket. We are not dealing in a supermarket where we are looking for our favorite products at a bargain price. So myself personally, I have a wife and 5 children, so I know all about trying to find a bargain at the supermarket. Believe me, I do it every time I go. So like let's have an example of tacos. Okay, everybody loves tacos. So you go to the supermarket and you and your wife have been talking about make some tacos or whatever, and you see taco shells are on sale for half price. So normally they're $3 a box, and now they're $1.50 a box. So you grab up like all the boxes you can. You get like 10 boxes, and you say to yourself, man, I just saved 15 bucks. I got these all at half price. You get home, you lay them all out on the counter, and you open one up, and you look inside and you realize that it's all moldy. And then you open up a couple more and they're all stale. So they're all just stale and moldy, and they're totally useless. So let me ask you, at that point, have you gotten into a bargain? Did you get those cheaply? Are those cheap? No, those are extremely expensive. You just wasted $15 and your time and your energy, and you missed out on using that $15 to buy like a few boxes of really good stuff that could have made you happy. So you got to think about that too. When you buy so-called cheap things that don't perform, that lose you money, you don't just lose out on the money, you lose out on the opportunity of making money on the other side. So that's something very important. That's true in life, and it's definitely true, and probably more true in the stock market. Whenever you tie up your cash with any asset, it means that you can't put it in another asset until you're done with the first one. So always remember that. And so in that case, is that a deal? Early on in my marriage, when we didn't have a lot of money, I was always buying like these cheap used cars, okay? And it turns out that cheap used cars most of the time were actually extremely expensive, because I would get stuck on the side of the road and have to put an alternator in by myself, walk down to the AutoZone and get it, and walk back and put it on, take a day off of work, take a whole weekend to get it fixed, take it back in. I mean, it was just a nightmare. And the stress and the pressure of that thing not doing what I expected it to do, if it was $1,000 or $2,000, it was an extremely expensive $1,000 or $2,000. So always remember that something is not cheap or expensive in the stock market. Stocks are not cheap or expensive. They either perform or they don't perform. So let me give you an illustration of this so that we can see very clearly that your stocks are not cheap or expensive. So let's use the example of Boeing, for example, BA. Okay, so you'll hear the talking heads talking about Boeing. Okay, let's say it used to be at a high of 400, somewhere up here is a $400 stock. Overnight it plummets and gets down to like $100, okay? okay, it goes way down. It loses a 3/4 of its value. So the talking heads will start getting really excited. You know, they're salivating. They want to sell you this stuff because they're actually, it's because the people that they work for, the big money that they work for, and that they read, the people that write the stuff that they read off the teleprompter, they want them to get you to buy this stuff to pump their stock back up, or they want to drive it down. There's always a reason why they're telling you, but we'll leave that for a different video. The important thing here is that it drops down in price and people think, oh, it's cheap because Boeing is huge. It's the greatest airplane company in the world. It makes like billions of dollars worth of airplanes. It's got hundreds of billions in revenue. There's no way that this stock could go down any further. And lo and behold, the stock continues to go down, and it might get down to like $10. Okay? And the problem here is when you have the cheap, expensive mindset, you always think that the product is great no matter what, and the price means that it's cheap or expensive. So let's go back to the supermarket. This is true in a supermarket if the product is in good shape. So for example, your favorite brand of cereal, as long as it's not expired and it's in good shape and the store just has too much of it, when you get it at half price, you get to get it at half price, bring it home, eat it, and enjoy it, and it does exactly the same thing for you that it did. The problem with stocks is because it's all speculation, and because they're merely speculative tickets of price, there's nothing that you can immediately get from that stock for your money. It has to perform for you in order for it to be a good deal. So the mentality of cheap and expensive is really a killer right here, because when you get in at 100 because you think it's cheap, as it goes down, 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 you keep telling yourself, there's no way that this can go down any further because Boeing, it just can't go down. What you're forgetting is that all stocks can and will go down to zero if the speculators want them to go down that far. Has nothing to do with the revenue, has nothing to do with airplanes, has nothing to do with trillions of dollars. It's all about the speculation in the minds of the investors. So the reverse can happen. The reverse can happen, and stocks can also go up infinitely. But in this case, you rode this down to 10, and now that it's at $10 and you've lost like 90% of your money, you just tell yourself, well, gee, a stock just can't go to zero, and this thing's got to come up. And it probably will come up eventually, but you never know how long it'll take. And how long do you want to tie up your capital to wait for this thing to come up? And another thing is you always have to come up to this point just to break even because you bought it at 100. And so what can happen is as it goes from 10 to 30 to 50 to 70, you keep telling yourself, should I get out now? Because there's a possibility that it'll just shoot back down again. And so you get into this psychological problem where because you were so determined that this thing had value and you weren't listening to the price, you just kept thinking it was so cheap that it just kept losing on you and losing on you. It's the stale taco shell. It's stale tacos. It's just crap. It's not going to work. But your mentality is that it just has to work because the price is so low. So this is why thinking of prices in the market as high and low is a game killer. It's not good to do. It will get you messed up. You have to think of stocks as being performers or not performing. The price is really irrelevant because when you make money on a stock, you're making money on a percentage. So if you bought a stock for $1,000, a really expensive stock, $1,000, if it goes up 10%, you make $100, okay? If you bought 10 $100 stocks and they go up 10%, you also make $100. It's the same thing. Making money in the market is about percentages, not about pricing, not about how much something costs, okay? So we realize that we lost money here, and this might take like a year or 2 years just to get back to break even. It might not break even for a really long time. It also might come up around here, and then you break even and you, whew, I'm glad I'm out of that. And all of a sudden, after you sell, it just takes back off again. And then you keep jumping in and trying to catch it, and it just slaughters you. So there's a real problem with that mentality. And let's look at why stocks are not expensive. So that's why stocks are not cheap, because they can kick your butt. What if the opposite happens and Boeing is at $400? And by the way, this is going to happen. It was at this level about a year back, a year or two back. It's going to get to this level again, and I guarantee you, look at the analysts, the talking heads, and watch what they say about this stock when it gets up to this level. They'll say that it's expensive or overbought. Okay, so the stock is at 400. Let's say that it's come up like a really long way, like it's really high. It used to be at 300, and everyone, the talking heads, the scaredy pants, everyone's saying it's expensive. I look at that, $400 for one stock. Like, there's no way that Boeing could be worth any more than that. Like, they're a good company, but I mean, how much higher can it go? And so you tell yourself that this is too expensive. So it's kind of like, you go into the supermarket again, and you see something that's really high quality, it's really delicious, but you tell yourself, that's too expensive. I don't want to have that. And it's the same mentality. It's like, I think it's because we're so used to being in a bargain mode, and because we're so used to bargaining over products that have real value, that we know that as long as we can get that value, we'll pay a certain price. The problem with stocks is that there's no real value. So all that we're dealing with is a price movement. We don't care that it's $400. It's not cheap or expensive. It's just $400. That's the price. That's the only thing that matters. The only thing that matters is that this goes from 400 to 420 or 450 or 5. It doesn't matter how much it costs to get in. Okay? It's a high quality. So when the analysts are saying that it can't go any further, lo and behold, the stock just goes up, 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 and it hits like 550, okay? And everybody's going crazy. So, was this an expensive buy? Was this too expensive for you? If it went from 400 to 550, did that break the bank? So, here's what a lot of people will do. Let's say there's a random company called ABC Company, okay? And their stock was trading at 60, let's say their stock was trading at $60, and it goes all the way down to $40, okay? So their stock goes from 60 to 40. And so, talking heads, they say, hey, you got to buy ABC. ABC is just terrific. Let's say they make like some kind of medical product, some new thing, so everyone got hyped about it. They think it's the future. So it goes down to 40, and the analysts just say, oh, it's taking a breather. It's so cheap right now. It's such a bargain. This is a bargain buy. You should buy this. And so, the stock was up at 60, and now it's down at 40. So you decide to get in at 40 and start crossing your fingers, saying prayers, pledging that you're going to be a good person the rest of your life as long as the stock goes up. And lo and behold, the stock just goes down, and it goes down, and it goes down, and it just stays flat for like a year, okay? So you lost like almost all your money on this trade, and you get stuck with it, and you feel depressed. Okay, is that a cheap experience? That's an extremely expensive experience to go through that. And I would say that this is actually really cheap. So let's just turn it on its head. Buying at this price and writing it up here is a cheap price. It's a cheap ticket to ride a great ride. It's to have a great experience. This is extremely expensive to do something that's not even fun. So maybe we could use cheap and expensive if we turn them around, but just remember, price does the actual dollar price of a stock matters nothing. It's all about what's going to happen in the market. If it makes us money, there's no price that's too expensive. There's no stock that's too expensive if it's going to make good money. And there's no stock that's cheap enough if it's going to cause us to lose money and be in pain and misery and keep us out of the opportunities to get into these good ones. So, one thing I could offer as a word of advice is when you think about stocks, remember, there's no product being exchanged. We're only exchanging price. We are at an auction. We're bartering and taking decisions. We're making decisions to take profit off of price. You've got to wrap your head around this and realize there's no product. You're not gaining anything that you can use and enjoy immediately or in the future. We are only using the speculative price of the stock to move, sell, get out, and make money. So how much it costs, don't even think about that. It's better to own. If you only had $400 in the market, it would be better to own one Boeing than it would be to own 10 ABC. This will lose you half or almost all your money. This will make you money. So keep that in mind, and hopefully that helps, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.